Hey guys, thank you so much for all your patience during all the craziness of having to refilm this class. For those of you who saw it live, it was pretty amazing, but I do promise to deliver the exact same style step by step today. Of course, we have a new model, and you've seen her before. I stole her hair for another thing before. So now I'm going to show you that beautiful updo that we did on Asifa Mirza. So what we had done was we had recorded this amazing updo tutorial, and we had the makeup tutorial. So the makeup tutorial is up already. You guys have probably already seen it. So this is the hair portion of that class, just redone and further explained. Actually, now that we're redoing it, I can actually explain it even more so that you guys truly understand it and can replicate it. So I am holding contests with almost every class that we do, especially big ones like this. So if you do decide to recreate this look, go ahead and hashtag DressYourFaceLive and tag us so we can go ahead and look at your posts and repost our favorite ones on our pages. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to prep the hair. I'll have you take a look at the length of her hair right now. This is without any extensions or anything, but please do keep in mind that this style can absolutely be done on any hair length, but if it's very short or if the hair is very thin on your client, you can absolutely use extensions. And there will be a separate class in the very near future of me creating an updo using extensions. So that's coming up soon. And of course, as I always say, if you have any suggestions on future classes or anything that you're dying for me to really dive into, go ahead and let me know via Instagram. You can always comment me your suggestions. You can make a post on what your favorite part about class was. You can take screenshots of this class and post about it. And in your post, give us your ideas of the next classes that you would love to see so we can add those to the schedule and keep everyone on top of their game. So for the prepping, I'm going to show you the tools that I'm going to use. First of all, the BombayHair.com Tamana styling set. This is the straightener that comes in the set, and it's pretty amazing because this is high-grade, pro quality tools, but at a very affordable price. And of course, with our discount codes and everything, you can get it for an even better deal. So always check my page and Bombay Hair's page for the latest and greatest deals and promotions. But this is the flat iron, and basically what we're gonna do is we're going to prep the hair by straightening the root and then curling the rest of the hair using this. So I'll show you in slow motion, basically kind of going at a healthy pace so that you guys can follow along. Other than this, we are going to be using the Tamana hair clips, also found in the Bombay Hair tool set that I made with them. And as far as the brush and the teasing comb, these are from Layla Milani Hair, and we have the Miracle brush, we have the teasing comb, and we're going to be using this to help to style her hair as well. And of course, you're going to need bobby pins and hairpins. So the difference between bobby pins and hairpins is bobby pins are the closed kind, and hairpins are the open U-shaped kind. So we're gonna need both of them, and this big ol' mesh donut. I call these donuts, but they're really, I don't know. I don't even know what they're called. I think they're like chignons. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but it's spelt C-H-I-G-N-O-N. If you look for it online, just type that, but I just call these mesh donuts. And I get the biggest size, and you can find these at Sally's Beauty Supply and even H&M sometimes in their bins by the cashier. They have some big ones like on the bottom. They always get sold out, so dig in there and find these big ones. And this is what we're gonna use in her bun area to create a major volume and a nice solid shape so that when we do pin the dupatta, which is shown in the makeup class, it doesn't weigh down and it has a beautiful shape to it. So anyway, that's all we're gonna need. So now I'm gonna turn her around so you can see the back while I am prepping her. So let's go ahead, sorry I touched your butt. And, and we're just gonna brush using my favorite brush, the Layla Milani Miracle brush. It does not hurt, so even if your client's hair is super tangled, even if you're brushing your little daughter's hair and her scalp is so sensitive, this brush is pretty amazing because it just detangles without pulling and breaking the hair. Pretty good stuff. So now that it's all smooth, I don't even have to section it that much, all I'm doing is I'm taking piece by piece and I'm smoothing the root, and then I'm just gonna wrap around and curl the second half of the hair. See how I'm going kind of slow here? And you see this little curve at the end? That's all we want. So we just are looking for a little curve. So I'm just gonna take random pieces. Again, you don't have to section it perfectly or anything. All the hair is gonna be up in an updo anyway. So it really is not that crucial as far as making sure each section is exactly the same. But you do wanna make sure that when you're curling it, you're going nice and slow so that you're getting a good curve at the end of the hair. So see that? That's what we're looking for, is that little curve. And just do that everywhere. So all over. I'm already almost done with 20% of the hair, and it's only been a couple of curls that we did. So you can take big sections to speed up this process, absolutely. Ta-da, see? Cute. This is a great way to curl the hair too in general. If you have a client that just wants a nice curly hairdo, you can absolutely just use a straightener to smooth the roots and to give her a beautiful springy curl. But of course, if you're looking for like a beach wave or anything like that, it is a little easier and more beneficial to use a wand. So the Tamana styling set also comes with a 3-piece wand set, which is interchangeable. So it has the wand base along with 3 sizes of the barrels. So it comes with a big barrel, which is for very loose beachy waves. It comes with a medium-sized barrel, which is about an inch wide. And that one's best for most of the Hollywood waves that I do, that you see pictures of on Instagram and everything. And then I have the tiny size, which is the, I believe it's 3/4 of an inch. And that one's good for really tight curls, really bouncy texture, things like that. So I'm just taking random sections and we are curling nice and slow, smoothing right through, making sure I'm going a little slower as I'm getting to the ends because I really want the ends to have that perfect little flip. And as I'm finishing, I'm just moving it to the side so I can work my way across. Again, smooth the roots, especially if you see any little wave in the root. And that's about it. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and answer some common hair questions while I'm doing this, just so that I can tackle some issues that you guys may have. One of the questions that I get all the time is, what do you tell your clients to do as far as prepping their own hair before their appointment? Do you recommend that your clients come in with freshly washed hair and then you blow dry? Or do you want old hair, dirty hair? What do you recommend? I love working with slightly dirty hair. Why? Because it cooperates so much better. When hair is freshly washed, it can tend to be a little too slippery and tend to be a little too frizzy. So I prefer hair to be 1 or 2 days old, depending on how soon the hair gets greasy on your client, because when there's a little dirt in there or buildup, it tends to just kind of listen to you, and it ends up holding a style really well. As far as my clients coming in with wet hair, I do not encourage that. In fact, on my contract for my brides, it says that blow dry is not included, because if I were to blow dry the hair and then style it, that would basically double the amount of time that it would take me to do the hair. So I only account for the time that it takes me to style. So I do not blow dry, and if they want to still come in and not listen to me and still come in with wet hair, there is an additional charge because of the additional time, and there's no guarantee that they will be ready on time. And especially if I'm back to back with clients, I can't let another client start late just because my previous client ended up adding too many things to her time. So I make it pretty clear on the documentation, also via text and via phone call if I am talking to my clients, you know, what they need to expect and what needs to be ready for me. So what I love is that if they decide to wash their hair the night before, just so that it's not freshly washed when they come in. That way they can blow dry it before they go to bed, they sleep on it, and it really tames the hair. By the time they come to me the next day, the hair is already settled and I don't have to deal with that fresh frizz. Also, if you do decide to blow dry the hair and then style it, please make sure the hair is 150% dry. If it is at all damp, the style will not hold, and you can possibly fry their hair by using such a hot tool on them when the hair is still damp. So I highly recommend you have them have fully dry hair. Or if you're blow drying it, make sure the roots are fully dry all the way to the tips, and then gather all the hair and feel that middle section to make sure nothing feels cold or damp. That way you can just make sure there's going to be no steam or anything, and everything is just super dry and it'll all last. Other common questions would include things regarding the extensions, especially if someone has very thin hair. What I tell my brides is I prefer them to have a box of extensions handy for us to use, just in case we run out of their real hair. So if they're looking for a very big volumized updo and they don't have a lot of hair to work with, I will tease their entire head, which we are going to do today, so you're going to see that. I tease the whole head, I spray the tease to make sure that it stays up and it doesn't get limp. And then I also see if they have brought their hair extensions handy, especially if they say that they have pretty thin hair, because in case I run out of hair as I'm working, which you'll know what I'm talking about as I'm working, I'll show you on camera right now, but as you start running out of hair, you can absolutely plug in those hair extensions in the empty areas and use those to fill in the holes. So I do recommend brides to have those handy. If they don't want to buy one, they can borrow one from a friend. A lot of people have hair extensions. And as far as the type of hair extensions, of course, I have been working with Bombay Hair for years. Before I started working with them, I was a real customer of theirs. I ordered my hair from them for so long, ever since I discovered them on Instagram. And I'm going to be very honest and candid with you. A lot of the other brands that I've tried have been very stringy at the ends, and no matter how many extensions I clip in my bride's hair, the ends still look so stringy and so thin. And I'm not looking for volume only here. I want thickness everywhere in the hair. I want bounce everywhere. So when I discovered Bombay Hair and I got my first set of hair from them, I was very pleased because the roots were just as thick the hair was just as thick at the roots as it is at the ends. And that was really impressive to me, because I've never found a hair company that really makes sure that all the hair is the same length on the bottom, so that we have that thickness on the bottom, no more stringiness, and I don't have to double up on the amount of hair extensions I'm using. I can actually use less pieces of hair extensions because they are so thick. And that way, when you're using less pieces of hair extensions, that's less clips in your hair, that's less of a headache for your brides, especially if they have to wear that all day and all night. So I have been telling my brides to only buy the Bombay hair extensions for years and years. And now, of course, now that I have my own line with Bombay Hair, I'm able to pick and choose the amount of hair that I have in my clips. I'm able to choose the colors myself and formulate the perfect combinations. And all of that can be found on BombayHair.com. And thank you guys so much for all your support with that, because it keeps selling out. So now we're working on getting larger quantities of shipments in so that you guys don't have to keep waiting for your amazing products to come in. So now I'm bringing back the hair. I'm gonna do a final little curl on this bang area here. So I'm just gonna give it a little wrap and twist it around. Ta-da, now we have this lovely curl. And I'm gonna pick up all this hair so you can see exactly what I did here. So check that out. We have nice waves at the tips. Everything's nice and straight at the root, looking very shiny, very healthy, and very curved in the right area. So what will happen is, as I'm taking piece by piece to wrap into her bun, it's actually going to cooperate with me, and you see how all this hair just kind of goes into this cute circle and it just kind of stays there. It's a great way to get the hair to just cooperate and listen to you and build a memory instead of having straight hair or their own natural wave, which is not going to listen and cooperate the way you really want it to. So now that the hair is fully prepped, I can show you how I section the hair to get it all started for this whole glam look. So first, I asked my client, where do they want their hair parted? And she had mentioned to me that she likes it this way. That's right, right? Okay. So I'm going to first make sure that we are happy with the part. The cool thing about doing hair for me is that I focus more on the back and I get the back done first. And then I do the bang area. So in case they decide to change their mind on where they want their part, or if they want to go with the middle, or if they want to go all back, I can still do that after I've already finished the back. But for now, I'm just going to do a preliminary sectioning based on what she's told me. So what she said is that she loves a side part. So I'm going to fix up this side part, and I'm going to section everything to make sure that it stays out of my way during the rest of the styling. So I basically, I'm gonna turn her to the side so you can see. And go ahead and tilt your hair here. Yeah, perfect. So I'm sectioning from the top of the parting all the way down to the ear. But I do wanna go maybe just a little bit more back. Yeah, right there. Right behind the ear is where I want it to end. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna wrap it up, and I'm going to clip it with my Tamana alligator clip. Bam, done, out of the way. We can move on to the other side and do basically the same thing. So from the top of the part all the way to the area behind the ear, we're gonna section that off. And then we're also going to section off the back. This is a small section, so I'm just going to use a little bobby pin to get that out of my way. Now, with the back, I go from ear to ear. So I'm just going to create a curved section here from ear to ear, like this. So the top, we're going to section away, and we're going to work on the bottom for a little bit. Now, depending on where your client, here's another question that I get asked a lot. How do you section hair depending on how high your client wants their bun? So for a client who wants a low bun, this is how I do it. I go from top of ear to top of ear. I focus over here, and I put this hair in a bun right on the neck area. If they want their bun higher, I'm going to section this higher. So I'm going to go all the way up with my curving. I still do from ear to ear, but I curve it higher so that most of this hair is down and only a little bit of the hair is up. So I'm going to show you the side version so you can see what I mean by that curve going pretty high. So all this would be put aside for a little bit. I would focus this bun to be a little bit higher up in here instead of down here, and then I can bring all this hair up in it. And if they want a high bun, then you can go ahead and actually bring all of this into a high ponytail and work it that way. But for those who like a little poof, I recommend the bun being right behind them or right on their neck area or above their neck area. And that way you can get a very nice Bollywood style, which is what we're doing today. So back to sectioning ear to ear with a little curvature. You would be using the end of a comb for this, unless you have nails like mine, where I could just use my nails to section. It makes my life a little easier. And I'm just going to wrap this all around and put it aside and focus on this. So, next thing, I'm going to give it a little spray. This is the Tresemme number 5 holding spray. It's very strong and amazing, but the best part about it is if you brush it out, it does not flake. It's pretty great. So I'm just going to brush this into a ponytail. I'm going to use a small black band, hair tie. Oopsie. And I'm going to create this ponytail for her. Make sure the ponytail is centered. Unless your client wants like a side bun, then you're gonna make your ponytail on the side somewhere. But for this look, we're gonna do a centered ponytail. So this ponytail is right in the center of that section. Now we're going to put the donut right in there. So we're gonna put this ponytail through the hole of the donut. And now we're ready to secure this donut around using those U-pins. So the hair pins from Sally's Beauty Supply, I buy them by the pound in the box. I want you guys to see a nice close-up of this part. So what I do is I go in the mesh, see how the prongs go to this side? Now I flip it and shove it in. So you're gonna do that. Prongs go through the mesh, touch the hair, flip it, and shove it back in the mesh. You're gonna do that all the way around. You don't have to use a million prong pins, but enough where if you shake the donut on her head, it's not gonna move. And I'm gonna go all the way around with this, just maybe a couple more or 3 more pins for the bottom. And then we're gonna start pinning some of this hair around the mesh so we can hide it. So it basically just looks like a big hair bun. If you guys have a real hair mesh, like a lot of salons create out of loose hair extension hair, weave hair, they'll stuff a lot of hair in, what am I even trying to say? They're trying to stuff a lot of hair in a hairnet. And they create a little ball out of that and they pin that to the back of the hair, and that works amazing too. But I've noticed that the mesh buns are a little stronger, they don't flatten up, and with those hair net stuff, the stuffed hair nets, it squishes all the way. So if someone just goes like this, it will flatten up. But if someone goes like this with her right now, this isn't flattening up, it stays pretty strong. So for a Bollywood updo, especially if you're gonna put a heavy dupatta on top of it, I would use something like this. If you're not going to be putting any scarf or dupatta or veil over it, nothing too heavy, then you can use the more weaker versions stuffed with hair, and that way, I mean, it doesn't really matter. So now we're ready to start sculpting and creating beautiful, beautiful curls here. So I'm going to give you a little advice at this point. This hair I'm going to use for basically the sides and the bottom of this mesh bun. This is what I'm trying to really cover. If I have extra hair left, then I'll start covering the other exposed areas, because we have to remember we still have all this hair to work with, which is going to cover the top area of the mesh. So I'm not going to worry so much about covering the whole mesh bun just with this hair, because we have 2 more thirds up here that we're going to be using. So again, let's use this hair to focus on this bottom part and use this hair to focus on this top part. And if we end up with extra hair, we can always start covering up other pieces and creating designs. So I'm going to start off with this section here. I'm just going to take a little bit of hair and I'm going to spray it so that it can be a little crunchy and not have any flyaways or loose ends. And now I'm going to use my regular bobby pins, these pins here. I'm going to stick the bobby pin through this ribbon. This technique here where you spray and then you smooth, I call that ribboning. And so I stick a bobby pin through the ribbon, I loosen it up, and then I curve it around. Let me turn. I curve it around to cover a side of the mesh, as so. And then I can spread this to cover even more of the mesh. This loose piece, I leave it alone for now, and I use it for the little swirls at the end of this process. So for now, I just stuck it right in here. If you feel like the bobby pin is loose and it can pop out, then go ahead and notice how I put the bobby pin right in here. I'm going to use another bobby pin just to lock that bobby pin in place so that there is nothing that's going to make this loop come out. And now I just kind of spread it and that way I'm maximizing this little tiny piece that I used. It literally covered a quarter of this bun. Pretty cool, huh? So I'm going to do the same to the other side, taking about the same amount of hair. We're going to spray it to make sure it's nice and crispy. We are going to ribbon it to make sure that there's no flyaways or anything. And now I'm going to use a bobby pin, stick it right through the ribbon that I created, wrap it around and stick it in the mesh bun. I'm going to use another bobby pin to cross pin through the original bobby pin. I just have to make sure where it is so that that thing does not move around. Now I have this little loose end. I'm going to deal with that later. And I'm spreading out this to cover as much as possible. Now see, with only 2 little sections, I've already covered most of the bottom. Now I'm going to use a small section from the bottom here to cover that empty spot below. I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to do the same thing, spraying both sides, ribboning it between your fingers, and use a bobby pin across it, wrap underneath, cover up that mesh, cross pin. This is where I rely on my feeling senses rather than sight because it's so down there, and spread it so that all that loose, the empty mesh area is covered. Now we have all these beautiful, beautiful curves. And see what I'm doing? See where I'm going with this here? All these curves are going to act as my final design towards the end of this process. So ignore this for now. We're going to start working with the rest of this hair. Another thing that I want you guys to pay attention to is this hole here. I do not want, okay, look at the side view. I do not want this to not look round. I want it to look round, and I want it to look like a nice bun. So the last thing I want is this to look super flat. So what I'm going to start doing with these sections here is I'm going to start building a little bit of volume right in here so that we can basically have a little more roundness in that area. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to split this section into 2. I'm going to tease the root of this section so that I can make it just a little bit more fluffy here. This is the Layla Milani teaser that I was showing you earlier. Okay. I'm going to spray. I'm going to ribbon. I'm also going to use very softly the bristles of the brush to smooth out the surface so that nothing looks messy. And now you can see that this piece is kind of floating outward. It has a little bit more volume in it, and I can work with it a little bit more. So with this, I'm going to start basically curving it in to create a little loop here, and that's going to be my padding to round out that little void, okay? That loop is going to be hidden by the rest of the hair, so don't worry about that. It will be hidden. It's not going to show as a loop unless you want it to show as a loop. You have total control of the design that we end up doing. But I'm just going to go ahead and use this as a stuffer. So there's my loop. I'm going to stick it in the mesh, okay? I'm going to put a few more bobby pins in it because I really want it to not stick out. I just want it to puff out a little bit. So I'm using another bobby pin to hold the top up, and one more bobby pin on the bottom to hold that part down so it doesn't just stick out awkwardly. So now, as you can see, I've created a little bit of a rounding here, and now the rest of this hair will basically cover it and create a better shape. Ta-da! All the little secrets of hair design comes out now. All right, so I'm gonna start putting these pieces together now. So now I'm ribboning the rest of this little tail. I'm gonna figure out where I wanna place it. So remember how I was just showing you right now how I would cover this little bump thing, this little stuffer. And I just want it to curve over it like that. So I'm going to create this curve, and I'm going to pin it kind of secretly. So I'm just putting a pin right through it, and now I'm going to spray heavily. That usually wakes up your client if they're dozing off. Okay, and now you can kind of see I'm just giving it a little bit more of that neater padding. Keep in mind, we still have so many others to put over this, so it's really not going to show much. The top section is really what's going to show, but this is just for that padding and that layering. Now I'm going to work on this little piece here for some layering, and we can actually add that right into this, or we can create its own little curve this way. Oh, actually, I want to finish up with this piece before we go into these little ends here. So let's go ahead and figure out where this guy is headed. Okay. Just making sure the rest of it is nice and spread out so we don't get any gaps. So I'm gonna ribbon this piece. And I'm going to start curving it to see where this wants to go. So either I can add it to this side, or I can create its own little loop here. I can create a very big loop since we have so much hair to work with here. I can just wrap it around, spread it out so it looks a little thicker, and place it somewhere to give a little more volume. So I'm just gonna stick that in here tentatively. We can always move it around if we need to. And remember to spray. Spray acts as our glue, which keeps the hair from moving around too much. All right. So we're spraying that down, and as you can see, it starts to kind of curve out the bun so it doesn't look all crazy and flat. Awesome. Now we can start working on these little bits that need a home. So I'm thinking I might as well add this piece right up in here to really make that curve nice and grand. So I'm going to go ahead and basically spray that down, use the back of my finger to smooth that out, and use this to almost anchor that previous curve. This is where things get a little creative, so there's no real rules. I just want you to be very visual with this and keep the aesthetics of the shape that you're trying to go for. So like I said, I'm trying to go for a nice round bun here. So I'm gonna make sure that everything I do goes towards keeping a nice roundness of the shape. See how it's starting to come out round and not flat anymore? So every step I do is going to be geared towards that. You don't want to waste hair. Like you don't want something like this bottom piece really, okay, it may not have much of a purpose, but if you have a great piece like this, you definitely don't want to waste it by hiding it somewhere. You want every piece of hair to have a purpose and to go somewhere that really matters and makes a big difference in the overall style. and that can also hide any of the mesh that you have underneath and things like that. So whatever you need to do it with purpose. I love this piece here, and I do want to save it for something special. So I'm going to leave this out, and I'm going to just put this little piece away since it doesn't have a whole lot of hair and I don't really have a huge purpose for it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hide this mesh with this hair. I'm going to spread it out. I'm going to spray it. And I'm going to literally just hide that mesh piece with this hair. And I'm going to find a nice place for me to pin it, which will not ruin any of the other pieces. So I'm just going to stick it right on the bottom there and hide the ends inside a previous loop. All right, so now you can see everything's pretty much covered on this end. And now I'm going to show you what I do with the crown. So we're going to open up this section. Bam, we have all this hair to work with now. So starting with the top, I'm going to start teasing the hair. Go ahead and look up a little bit. Yeah, beautiful, thank you. Starting with this very, very top part, I'm going to tease the roots of the hair. Notice how I'm teasing. I'm pushing the hair all the way down to the root. I'm not teasing in the middle and kind of leaving it there to just limp and die. I'm pushing all the tease down to the root, down to the scalp, so that it actually holds up the hair and it doesn't just flop over. I need it to be strong, especially if this is an Indian bridal hairdo. It has got to withstand weight. See how it stands right up? It doesn't fall over. That's when I stop and I spray. So it has to withstand weight, and it has to withstand dancing and bending and going crazy. And this is how I guarantee my styles. Again, going in, we are teasing pretty hard and pushing it all the way down to the scalp. And spray. And you're basically just gonna do this all the way around every section until you're done with that top crown. This section of hair is all going to be teased. And just keep what I told you in mind. Push all that teasing all the way down to the scalp in order to ensure a beautiful amount of volume that's not gonna fall flat throughout the day. If the hair is too silky and it does not tease right, try using a texturizing spray first or during. Like if it's too silky, I would just spray it and then start teasing more. And that way you're basically adding a little bit of buildup to the hair so that it can tease a little better. And then do a final spray when you're done with that section. Your head's gonna feel like 1,000,000 pounds. But technically, we're not adding too much weight because we're not doing extensions. It's just gonna feel a little crazy. And it's gotta feel firm, that's the thing. It's gotta feel really like this is very secure. So it's gotta feel secure. If someone's hair is very thin and very limp, take smaller sections and tease extra. That way you're not missing any hairs in between for teasing. You're maximizing every piece. almost done. And notice when I'm teasing, I'm lifting the hair straight up. I'm over directing the hair so that it doesn't fall over. So if you tease like this, that's not gonna work. You gotta hold it all the way up and tease. That's when you're gonna really build strength in the hair and extra volume. All right, done creating our nest. Now, piece by piece, we're going to bring it down and spread it out. This part's a little crucial. The reason why I don't just flip out all the hair over is because parts get tangled inside and it may be bunched up from the places that you teased. So what I do is I take piece by piece, section by section, and then I can spread it and create a wonderful, smooth look. So here's a piece. I'm just spreading it to create a beautiful effect here. Here's another piece I'm spreading. And you just keep doing that. Bringing all this hair down and spreading it into a beautiful curve. This is one of the best tips I can give you if you have a hard time creating that perfect volume top. This is really gonna help you a lot. All right. So, check that out. We got a nice big bump up here. Now I'm going to use the Miracle Brush very lightly and smooth the top. A lot of you out there ask me, hey Tam, what do you do when you brush it and everything falls flat again? Well, to prevent that, what I like to do is I like to gather the top sections, put my arm through it, and then brush over. That way I'm not flattening that top section. It's going over my arm, so it's going over a curve, and I'm not ruining all that tease. All I'm doing is smoothing that very, very top without flattening all that beautiful teasing underneath. And proceed to the shaping. The sides, doesn't matter too much about the roundness unless they have a very long face. Then you want to create more roundness on the sides. So in that case, you want to do that arm thing for the side too. But usually I don't do the arm thing on the sides. I just kind of do it on the top where it's just really, really necessary. I don't want any gaps either. So right now I'm just closing in on the gaps. Once all that's smoothed out, we're going to do one more coat of spray everywhere. That will hold down all of the loose flyaways. And here's the fun part, creating that poof. So I'm going to gather all this hair. Put this one back. Actually, this whole thing is going to be covered anyway, so I'm not too concerned. Okay. We've gathered. Now we're going to smooth the bump, just using the very tips of the bristles here. And making sure that everything's looking nice and even. I'm gonna do, okay, here's where you're gonna look pretty closely. I'm gonna make sure I'm twisting the hair only once. Once meaning like this, okay? One solid twist. So basically the hair from this side twists over to this side, the hair from this side twists under to this side. So it's a full cross, okay? Once that twist is complete, I'm going to pin it on the top of the mesh bun. Because this is a lot of hair on the top, you may need a few pins to go through all of it. So I'm going to use several pins to make sure that I'm not skipping over big chunks of hair. Make sure all that hair is going through at least 1 or 2 pins. You don't want any hair to remain loose. Otherwise, what happens is if I keep some loose, it can move this bump. So I want to lock down all of it. Bam, okay? Now I can go in and start kind of fiddling around and seeing how big I want to go from here. So if I want to loosen anything up and grow it, I can. But looking at it right now, I think this is an ideal shape and size, so I'm not going to grow it further. Now that I'm happy with this, I'm going to give it a final spray all the way across every part. Phenomenal. I'm very happy. Okay, cool. Now it is time to take little piece by piece, just like we did this. We're going to do piece by piece and start covering all of the rest of the mesh. I'm going to hold it and just detangle it real quick. I'm going to start with the sides and then work my way across to the middle. I'm going to turn her so you can see the back here. Notice this piece from before, I still haven't played with it yet. I'm going to save that. It has a beautiful curve to it, so I'm going to use this first, and then I'm going to use this over it. So, spray, ribbon, and we're curving over to cover up some of the mesh, and we can spread it across. And we can use this to curve over and create our swirls. I want to show you one more variation in case you don't want the loops. You could always, this is one of the variations that I very often do. I'll go ahead and make a curve right away on my hands. So let's say this is going to be a big curve here. Sometimes I'll just go ahead, make my curve, and pin it in, and that will cover some of that mesh. So I'm going to move this aside real fast. So I can work on this curve. And also I want you guys to pay attention to where the hair is flipping. If it wants to go this way, then curve it this way, which I think it wants to do. So let's go ahead and do that. Otherwise we can force it to go this way too, but you usually don't want to force the hair to go in the opposite direction than what it's already doing. So we're just going to smooth this out, curve it, create a really nice style all the way around, roll it, and now we can pin it right in to the mesh, loosen up some of these properties so that it maximizes the coverage, and we start pinning it in. And with this loose end, it'll cover the rest of the mesh. So it ends up looking like a nice big loop. It's so beautiful. I really like doing it this way. And now that that one's done, I can go back and work on this one. So we can basically do the exact same thing with this one, and I could actually push it right into that loop and pin it right in so you guys can see better. We're going to use this piece to cover up the little hole of mesh remaining right inside. So we want to spray it so it doesn't move around too much. We want to wrap it nice and tight in the middle so that it can cover that little hole. It's like making pin curls, basically. And now we're going to pin right through it. And it's basically like a nice looped design. Keep in mind also we still have all this hair, so we can go in and cover any remaining areas with that hair. So I'm just going to do the same kind of thing all the way across. I'm going to use this piece and loop it on this side. I'm actually going to use a little bit more. I like a nice dramatic loop. So spray, ribbon, and manipulate that hair into whatever shape you want. It totally helps me that I have nails, but I don't know how you guys feel about all that. But if you guys have nails, definitely use it to your advantage so you can pick across and create your loops a little bit better. And see how that one came out so beautifully? Spraying it in place. We're going to use some pins to just stick it right in so it doesn't move around. Voila, that one's done just with one pin. Now I can focus on all this hair that's left. I'm going to clip this out of my way so it does not get tangled into the other pieces. I'm going to be very careful not to create any dents. And I'll use this big old chunk here to cover up the rest of that mesh. And then this last piece will be all the little design stuff. It's going to look really cool. So ribboning and manipulating that curve. And we're going to start wrapping in and creating a big old loop, just like that. It's basically like draping the hair. It's so beautiful. Ta-da! Gorgeous. And we're just going to make sure we spray that down a lot so it doesn't move around. Now we have all this hair, and we can do some really cool detailing with this. Okay, so first of all, let's split this hair in half so we have a little bit more to work with. And at this point, you do what you want to do. So if you want to focus on bigger loops, then I would go ahead and add these into the neighboring loops to make them a little bit more grand. If you want more detail and more intricacy, then you can go into smaller sub loops. You can go into, top loops here. You can start spreading out however you want it. In this class, I do want to show you a more grander, larger way of doing things. So I'm not going to go too intricate and too tiny with the details. Let me just make sure that this piece is in all the way. Okay, good. So let's figure this out. This is where we got to think a little bit. We don't want to cover up any of the beautiful stuff that's happening here, but we still have all this hair to work with. So let's split that. I'm going to go ahead and add this to this and cover up some of that. Or another way that we can do this is literally cover this like a ribbon, but that's what I want to use this for. So let's just go ahead and keep adding loops, huh? Spray, ribbon, spread apart, and I'm adding to this loop right in there. And that kind of just covers up that remaining mesh that was showing on the top. And we're just gonna smooth that all out, spray it down with some hairspray, And now I'm going to go ahead and pin it right in. Okay. This next piece will basically be doing the same thing. I'm going to roll it across, and we can actually make a little S wave if we want. And we can cover up any other remaining areas. We can make this part bigger. What I'm probably going to end up doing is, let's see here. I don't want to cover up too much of this beautiful piece here. But I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of create a little S, and then the end of this can cover that little mesh piece in there. So let's figure out what we're going to do with this baby here. Let's go ahead and spray back and forth, ribbon it so we can get it to really cooperate with us. And now I'm going to try to create something a little different. I think I want to create an S so you guys can really see another version of a pattern. Instead of a loop, I want to show you an S. So I'm going to have this across like this. And I'm going to bring all this in and flip it back out. And that way you see this kind of a formation that really is quite interesting. So for this part, I'm going to start pinning in to make sure it doesn't move around too much while I'm trying to spray. See how that kind of just formed on its own? So really listen to the curl, listen to the hair, see how it's responding and what's the best way for you to just let it form in its natural curve. And of course, my nails do make it a lot easier so I can move all this around. Actually, this can just go right into there and hide that last little empty spot. Wow, that looks really cool. Okay, we're gonna spray. So technically, the bun part is done. I want you to see a good side-to-side view of this. So I'm just gonna rotate slowly, and you can see the very interesting loops and curves that are going on back here. Now let's go ahead and work on this side and bring it back into a ribbon. So I'm just gonna comb it out to make sure that it's very smooth here. I don't wanna see any baby hairs or anything. We're gonna spray it and literally just curve it into the hairstyle. One of the things that I like to do, especially if it's very flat, is I do like to add a little bit of teasing inside and spray inside and then spray on the outside and curve it over. That way it looks a little rounder, it's not as flat over there. I'm right now spraying the baby hairs to make sure that those stay nice and tamed. And now we'll start the ribboning curving process by putting this piece of hair all the way across. So let's spray as we move the hair over. And I'm just gonna tuck this piece in and just let it flow into another loop. just like that. So it has a nice kind of a flow to it, and we're going to pin right in there to make sure nothing moves. And now we're going to work on this side, and this side's going to be a little different. I'm going to show you a nice bang variation here. So first things first, I'm going to start teasing the top so we can create a nice big height S-wave on the top here. I do have some other classes that are up there if you guys have the all access pass on how to create the perfect S-wave and different variations. So definitely use the information in that class to create your own variations for the front of any updo hairstyle. But in this particular class, I'm going to show you the curl variation, the pin curl variation of the S-wave, as well as a ribboning technique, which is what we used on the other side. So right now I'm just teasing the base. Getting all that in. And this last piece here, actually I'm going to add this little piece to that tease as well. And then with all this, I'm going to smooth it back. I do want to straighten up this. I don't want any waves happening in the hair, so I am going to straighten this a little bit. Okay. We're going to spray. I'll just tease the back slightly. And this bottom section, I'm going to go ahead and do that same thing that I did on the other side. I'm going to wrap it around and do this little ribboning motion. So let me spray the bottom to make sure that all the flyaways are tucked in. And now, curving it down and letting it just flow over the back piece. Gotta spray it to make sure it doesn't move too much while you're figuring out where to pin. Grab a bobby pin. And we're going to tuck it in right underneath the flap right up here. Any loose ends, you're going to basically just tuck right back into the ribbon. Make sure it's all sprayed so nothing moves. If you want it to just go a little flatter into the head, you can absolutely use another bobby pin to really get all that in here. That's looking great. So now, time for this S-wave. So remember, piece by piece, we're bringing it back, spreading it out, bringing it back, spreading, and the last piece, spreading, and we're going to smooth all of this and curve it into a nice roll, like a pin curl, and we're going to pin it wherever we want it. So we can go pretty low with it if they want their ears covered. We can go pretty high with it if they want to show their earrings. It's completely up to you guys what you end up wanting to do with this. But I just wanted to show you real quick where I would put the jewelry piece. So if you do have a bride that has a headpiece, like a tika, that's going to go in the hair, what I normally recommend is parting the hair in the middle or somewhere close to the middle first, after you've teased and everything. So at this point, I've teased and everything. I would put the tika right in here so that the jewel hangs right on the forehead. The string of the jewel hangs here. Go ahead and look down. And you would bobby pin right through the string of the tika. Then you would take all this hair and wrap it over, and it would hide the string, and you can go about your regular styling. So it is very helpful to put the tika on while you're working on the bangs so that you can then pin afterward. But let's say you've already finished the bang, and now all of a sudden your client says, oh, can you help me do my jewelry? And you're like, oh crap, what do I do? So in that case, you're gonna use the end of a comb after you've already pinned everything, and you can literally create a little hole and use your bobby pin on the string of the tika to go straight in there and then spread out that hole so that it kind of covers up. So that's another way that you can do this without freaking out or getting mad that they didn't tell you to do that earlier. So let me just revamp this since I messed with it so much. We're gonna spray. I'm gonna do that arm thing, remember? I don't want her curve to go down, so I'm gonna use my hand to keep that lift. And I'm going to very lightly lift the baby hairs in the front. And now I'm ready to start my curving. So I flip over like this. And this is where I kind of have my clients look in the mirror and tell me, do you want it to be really low, or do you want it to be, you know, showing your ear more? Like, what do you prefer? And then they just tell me how they want to go with this. If it was up to me, I just kind of roll it just like I am right now. Let me go to the side so you can see. I roll it around, I see where it looks best, I play around, and then once I'm happy with the positioning, then I go ahead and just give it a spray so it doesn't move too much. And then I can start pinning it in the areas that it's needed. And of course, you can make the loop as big, as loose, or as tight as you want it. That's up to you guys. Oh, I want to show you one more thing actually. If you want to do a couple loops, you could always do a larger loop first, like this. Let's say, right across right here, and pin that in first, and then go in with a second loop and pin that in right above it. So let's actually do that, because I think with the amount of hair we have here, 2 would be ideal. So of course this does depend on how much hair your client has. If they don't have a whole lot of hair, then 1 big loop is good. If they do have a lot of hair, then you have enough for 2 loops. So let's do 2. So for this one, I'm just gonna pin it right inside here, spray, tap down, and I'm gonna put another pin to keep the weight up high. I would say right up in here. Make sure if any parts got messed up that you're just making it look neat again. Of course, with nails, like I said, it's so much easier when you have nails to fix things up. But if you don't have nails, then absolutely use the end of your comb to kind of fix any webbing issues. Now we can play around with this piece. And I can just stick it right in through there, hide the end, so it just looks like a wave basically. Or we don't even have to hide the end. We can just leave it right open like that. We're gonna spray it, flatten it. And you can also use U-pins if you're having a hard time with the bobby pins. You can absolutely use U-pins instead to keep the hair in place, but also keep in mind, because they are open-ended pins, you know, through crazy amounts of dancing and things, there is that risk of them opening up. So that's why I typically use bobby pins when I'm doing pin curls. But I wanted you guys to see this variation as well. Because these are black pins, I think I'm gonna stick it in the darker areas of her hair because I don't want it to show over the light parts. So now we are done, yay! And of course with the front, you can play around with it if you really wanna give it a stronger curve. You can get in there with your fingers and really just lift it up. It's totally up to you guys how much of volume you really want here, but keep in mind, if someone's face is super long, you do not want to put too much volume on top. You want more volume on the sides. If someone's face is round, that's when you want a little bit more volume on top. So we're going to do a final little twirl for you guys to see all the different angles of this lovely hairstyle. And of course, if there's any areas that you see that have little flyaways or loose zones, go ahead and add extra hairspray just to kind of seal the deal at the end of your session. So I'm gonna twirl her around so you guys can get the full 360 view of all of the parts of the hair. So now you can see every section and all the intricate loops that we have, and the little S formations that we made, and then the double loop right on the side. And that's it. So now if you have not seen part 2 of the class, which is the makeup portion, go ahead and go to that video, watch that, because that's when you're gonna see the dupatta pinning on the top of the head too, and the final look on my Indian bride. Thank you so much. This was a very fun class, and I was very happy to reshoot it for you. I'm so sorry again for having you guys wait. The file was totally messed up, could not be uploaded, so we had to literally reshoot everything, and I'm just very glad that my model came through for me and did us this favor by letting us use her hair to reshoot this class. So I hope you loved it. I did go a lot slower in this class than the original one, just to make it up to you guys so you guys can get a little extra knowledge out of this class as a thank you. So hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next class. Bye.